We are back after a crushing blow to the bookies on Thursday, and now on a beautiful 8-3 run. Today is Saturday, November 23rd. We got a lot of games. I got a lot of picks. Let's get right into it. But before that, like always, my name is Mo. This is Tears of a Bookie, where we offer free picks with detailed, meticulous analysis. So you can, of course, tail them if you want. And we have one goal here, taking down the bookies and forcing as much profit from them as possible for every season and sports, professional sports, starting with the NBA season this year. Of course, if you want to support us, please consider subscribing. Thank you to those who have and those who watch the videos, like all that. You'll also be able to watch the videos as soon as they're out, so you don't miss out on any of the lines, or because they move the lines, odds movements, things like that. If you watch the videos as soon as you can, as soon as they're out, you will not suffer from that, right? It can be really annoying when sports betting. But with that said, let's get right into today's slate, today's picks. And before that, though, of course, the bets recap. Now, LaMelo Ball under in points, no good. It looked really good. He had 3 fouls in the first quarter, but the coach decided to play him in the second quarter, and he was just hot. He finished the first half with 18 points, and the third quarter he just went off. And I think he finished the game with 35 points, over 1.5 steals. You see the X and the check mark here. They actually gave him 2 steals for a few minutes in the box score, but then they removed that steal, so it kind of hurt. Brandon Miller over in points. Easy. He got it done in the first half alone. Career high. He finished with a career high 38 points, I think. Grant Williams, this one, we were kind of lucky that it went to overtime because he finished the regulation with 9 points. But in overtime, he, of course, finished with 12 points. So we cashed in both of those, except for the 18 plus points, of course, which we only had an eighth of a unit on. Cade Cunningham, oh boy. He came through for us, 5 plus first quarter points. He finished with at least 6, 7, 8. I don't know. He got it done. He played the entire first quarter. Over in rebounds, he finished right with 7 rebounds, and so we got a plus money win on that one. Over in blocks, I'll talk about this one in a sec. You see the plus, you see the check mark and the X. But Tobias Harris over zero point 0.5 steals. We finally cashed in on a defensive pick. In Magic plus 5.5, we finally got a game spread pick, a game pick to go our way. Hopefully we can start a new run on game bets and picks. But the Cade Cunningham one, this one was a sort of like a miracle. It was really weird because just like the LaMelo Ball one, he ended up with a block. It seemed like they gave him a block in the box score, but then at the end of the game they removed it. So if you look at the box score right now, he doesn't have that, but they gave him the block. And BetMGM, right? I gave this pick out on BetMGM. They actually considered it as a win and they gave out the money, as you can see here. So I mean, we'll take it. We'll take any of these mistakes or whatever the bookies give us. It's very rare, so it's enjoyable when it happens. But a huge day over 3 units, even if we do not count the Cade Cunningham over in blocks, it still was a profitable day over 1 unit. So let's just build on this run and continue with today's picks. And let's get right into it. About half the picks today are game bets, half of them are player props. And the game that I have the player props for is the earliest game. It's an Eastern Conference team versus a Western Conference team clash in Utah. The New York Knicks taking on the Utah Jazz. And I don't really have any of the Jazz players here with picks, but I do have 2 of the Knicks players. And the first player, of course, is Jalen Brunson, their superstar. And my first pick for him is over 7.5 assists. I'm not going to mention, orally, I'm not going to say what the actual odds are because every time I do, it changes. You can see it on the screen. It should be at plus money, though, for 1 unit. Now, Brunson is averaging 7.3 assists, but especially recently, he has really stepped up as a playmaker. His assist numbers in the past 5 games are 10, 11, 10, 7, and 8. So past 3 games, he's gotten double digits in assists. He's gone over this line in 8 of 15 games this season and 6 of the last 8, with two of the other games that he didn't go over. They finished he finished them on the hook with 7 assists. Utah, like Chicago, the matchup here, they give up one of the most assists to point guards, right? Their 10 recent games here are the assist numbers of the point guards. Chris Paul, 10 assists. Austin Reeves, 5, and D'Angelo Russell, 6. If you D'Angelo Russell is technically the point guard, but he comes off the bench. James Harden, 11. De'Aaron Fox, 9. Luka, 9. Tyus Jones, 7. Chris Paul again, 9. Damian Lillard, 7. And Russell Westbrook, 7. So a lot of them, almost all of them, most of them went over their assist lines, and some of them really crushed it with the assists. In a Knicks jersey, as a Knicks player, Jalen Brunson has 9, 8, 5, and 8 assists in his previous 4 games in his career against the Utah Jazz. Of course, as a New York Knicks player in the previous 2 seasons. So he's gone over this line in 3 of 4 games. Let's make it 4 of 5. Jalen Brunson over 7.5 assists. Pick number 2, again, sticking to Jalen Brunson. This one's a little bit juiced, but it's a defensive one that I really liked, and it's over 0.5 steals for the man. Now, Brunson, he's averaging 0.6 steals, but he has had a steal in 3 straight games. First 4 games of the season, he didn't really have a steal in any of them, but then he had a steal in 7 of the 11 next games. His steals per game in the past 2 seasons, though, as a Knick, they've been 0.9 in each of the seasons. He's at 0.6 now, so you expect him to be moving up and to be getting to a point where he's starting to get a steal in almost every game, right? Which is something we've been seeing again in 3 straight games. He's gotten at least 1 steal. Against the Jazz, here are his steal numbers in the previous 4 games that he's faced them in the previous 2 seasons as a New York Knicks player. 0, 2, 1, and 3. So again, he's gone over in 3 of 4. And again, here are some of the point guards and their steals when they face the Jazz in Jazz's last 10 recent games. CP3, Chris Paul, 2 steals. Austin Reeves, 0, but D'Angelo Russell, 1 steal. James Harden, 2 steals. De'Aaron Fox, 2 steals. Luka Doncic, 1 steal. Tyus Jones, no steals. Chris Paul, again, 1 steal. Damian Lillard, 4 steals. Josh Giddey, 1 steal. And Russell Westbrook, 5 steals. Jamal Murray was not playing, so he was the starting point guard in that game. So some of them absolutely crushed this line, like Lillard and Westbrook and Harden, Fox. And most of them had at least 1 steal. I really like Brunson to also have a steal tonight. Let's get it. But before moving on to the next Knicks player, I have just a little bit of money I want to put on this next pick, and it's another defensive pick for Brunson. It's Brunson over 0.5 blocks for just an eighth of a unit. And you can see the value. It's good value. It's like plus 500 something, plus 500, plus 600. Now, Brunson is yet to have a block this season in 15 games, so this might seem like a strange pick, and it's why I'm only putting an eighth of a unit on it. But he has averaged 0.2 blocks each season, each of the previous 2 seasons, as a New York Knicks player. And what that means, what 0.2 blocks average means, is roughly 2 blocks in every 10 games, right? He's gone now 15 games without a block. But here's a nugget for you. He's never gone over 15 consecutive regular season games without a block in the previous 2 seasons as a New York Knick. So, if he doesn't get a block tonight, which, it's the odds are low for him to get it, right? Technically, the line is at plus 500 something, plus 600. So the likelihood is low, but if he doesn't get it, it will be a new record of him, a new streak of games in the regular season of him not being able to get a block. Again, he averaged 0.2 blocks in each of the previous season, which means about 2 blocks in every 10 games. So he is due for a block. But also something that's very interesting is that the last time he faced the Jazz last season, he actually had a block against them. So, if he's done it once, he can do it again for sure. And this isn't really a matchup thing either. The point guards that have faced the Jazz, most of them were not able to get a block, but some of them have been able to. Like most recently, D'Angelo Russell had 1 block and James Harden had 2 blocks. So, it's definitely something that could happen. And for, plus 500, whatever, it's good value. And if we don't get it, it's only an eighth of a unit. So no harm done. But let's move on to the other player, and it's going to be my last player prop today. It's his teammate, a new addition to the New York Knicks, Mikal Bridges, under 16.5 points. Now, this is a little juice, not really, because it's the outline. It's not the original line. The original line is at 15.5, but I like just to go 1 point extra and play it at 16.5, and I'll tell you why. But first, this is one of those it's due picks, right? Because Jazz are actually one of the top teams in giving points to shooting guards. Mikal Bridges is technically the shooting guard for the Knicks. Here are the shooting guards' points in the last 10 matchups against the Jazz. Stephen Castle, the rookie for the Spurs, 18 points. Dalton Knecht, rookie for the Lakers, 37 points. Chris Dunn, 11 points. He's averaging 8 points. Kevin Huerter, 18 points. Quentin Grimes, 15 points, a season high for him. Devin Booker, 31 points. Stephen Castle, again, 23 points. Andre Jackson of the Bucks, 7 points. He's averaging only 3.5. Kobe White, 28 points. And Christian Braun, 17 points. So all of them went over. Now, what that means is that it's just due for a player to play a shooting guard to face them and go under, because we've seen in the NBA, it's very, very rare that, you know, there's never a stat that has a hit rate of 100%, right? Like, let's say a team is giving up a lot of assists to point guards. They might even be the number one team in the league when it comes to that. If you look at their last 10 games, it'll probably be like 8 or 9 of those 10 games the point guard has gone over an assist. It won't be all 10. That is very, very rare and unlikely. So it's just got to go under at some point, and that's why I like him to go under. But that's not the only reason why I like him to go under in his points. But before mentioning, just getting a little bit more deep into Bridges' stats, I just want to say that I used this same strat for Evan Mobley's points when he faced the Bulls a few games earlier, and he went under. It worked. So we've used this strat before. But now let me talk a little bit about Bridges. He's averaging 16.3 points, so this line is basically what he's averaging, and he's gone under this line in 8 of 15 games, so over 50% this season. But this is where it gets interesting. He's averaging 19.1 points at home, but on the road he's averaging 13.9 points. So there's over a 5-point difference in his points on the road and home. On the road he is generally scoring less. And in fact, on the road, he's gone over this line only one time in 8 games. And that one time that he went over, he went over with 17 points, so right on the hook. And also against Utah in his career, he's gone over this line in 4 of 18 games, 18 career games against the Jazz, and only 1 of 8 games against the Jazz in Utah, whereas they're going to be playing the game in Utah. And again, I'm going with the outline here because he's actually, as I mentioned, he's gone under this line, 16.5 line, in 7 of the 8 games on the road this season. But 2 of those games, he finished with 16, which is why, I just like it at 16.5 rather than the original 15.5 line. I probably wouldn't place a full unit on the 15.5 line if that's the only available option, right? But with that said, now let's move on to the game picks. The game record of this season for us, it hasn't been that great compared to player props. So we need to fix that. We need to get on a run with these game picks. I haven't really been giving out spread picks either. So, the Magic one was a great pick. So I've got a few spread picks that I really like in today's slate. And it starts with this game, New York Knicks and Jazz. And it's Jazz. I think the spread is at +9, something like that. For 3/4 of a unit. Now, the Knicks are on a 4-game winning streak, but 3 of these games were at home, and they were against struggling teams, right? Against the Wizards, and 2 of them against the Nets. And one of the games they won against the Nets, they only won by 2, so they were not even able to cover the spread in that game. And then the road game was a pretty impressive win because it was kind of a blowout, but it was against the Suns, who just suck right now, right? Kevin Durant is out, Bradley Beal is out, and they're on a losing streak. So they haven't really been able to win, 4-game winning streak, sure, but they haven't won a good team in this streak. Now, I'm not saying the Utah Jazz is a good team, and this is not the money line for the Jazz, right? It's just about a 9-point spread for them to cover. On the road, The Knicks have been, if we look at their entire season, they've been so-so. They've won impressively against the Suns, meaning they covered the spread, and against the 76ers, Pistons, and Heat, but they lost badly to the Celtics, if you remember, on opening night, Rockets, Hawks, and Pacers. So they've been so-so. And Jazz are coming back after a four-game losing streak, but they were on the road for that four-game stretch, and it was mostly against decent teams. Their last home game, of course, they beat the Mavs for their first home game win. And I think that they're definitely due for more home game wins. Why? Because if you remember last year, they were actually pretty good at home. Their record at home was 21-20. On the road, they were awful. And the record was 10-31. So I think they're due for some positive regression here, and winning and home. Um, and they also beat the Knicks last season in Utah. In that game, Knicks were favorites to win, to cover a spread of 5.5, but they straight up just lost, right? They lost by four. So, Knicks are due for a loss, Jazz are due for a win. And all that said, though, we are not going for the money line. We're just going for a 9-point spread, which is why I like it so much that I'm playing it a bit more than just half a unit. But now let's move on to the next spread pick. And this is the Orlando Magic and Detroit Pistons in Orlando. And I'm going with the team that is favored to win to cover the spread. Magic, I think it's at 9.5. Again, for 3/4 of a unit. Now, Magic are playing great and they are undefeated at home. They're 7-0 at home. And while you can argue that they are due for a loss at home, just like how the Lakers were and they lost to the Magic, I don't think that this Detroit team can be the one to upset them and win them in their own home. Or even keep it close, right? Because we're going for the spread here, not the money line. What I like about this pick, though, is that the Magic are 6-1 against the spread at home this season, and they are also taking care of under 500 teams at home, right? Teams that have losing records. For instance, they beat the Pelicans by 27, the Wizards by 27, Hornets by 25, 76ers by 12, and Nets by 15. So they covered the spread in all of those, and a few of them were blowouts. Pistons are missing, but again, why I really like this and why the line is even at 9.5 is because Pistons are missing a very, very important and key player that really helped us in the previous betting day. And a player I really like, Cade Cunningham, is out. He is injured. And this is the first game that they will be playing without Cade this season. Last season, the first game they played without Cade, they lost by 21 points in a blowout loss to the Kings. So he's a key player for the Pistons. He's the best player, obviously, and he does everything. He gets boards, assists, and of course, in terms of scoring, he's their top scorer. So I think that they might figure it out. Again, maybe this is just one game that he's not available and he'll be back. But usually, it's rare that the first game that they don't have him, they figure things out and they play well, right? We saw the same thing with the Magic, right? When they lost Banchero, they struggled at first. They lost 4 games in a row, but then they figured things out, and now they are just hot and playing great basketball. So same thing, I think. I think that's natural, right? If you lose a good player, you will not figure things out instantly. It might take a time, even though eventually you might start figuring things out and playing better. So that's why I really like this, and I'm playing it again more than just half a unit at 3/4 of a unit. Magic to cover the spread. The next spread pick is a back-to-back for both of the teams. They're facing each other again in the same court. It's the Trailblazers and the Rockets in Houston. Trailblazers to cover the spread, which is about 13 or 12 points. This one for half a unit, though. Now, Blazers and Rockets just played each other last night, and this is a back-to-back. Like I said, the Rockets blew out the Trailblazers. It was a 116-88 win. But first of all, DeAndre Ayton was not playing. There's a chance he might play tonight, but even if he doesn't, I still like this spread pick because in the game tonight, or last night, I should say, Jeremy Grant had 5 points, which was a season low for him, and Anthony Simmons only had 8 points. So two of their top scorers, both of them are averaging over 16 points this season, and they had single-digit points, right? So they were ice cold. The entire team was ice cold, and I think that they will definitely play better tonight, right? They literally will. Like, they can't play worse than that. Blazers play Here's an interesting fact about the Blazers too. Blazers actually play much better against teams after their first matchup against them. Let me give you some examples. They lost to the Pelicans and then blew them out in the next two games. They were blown out by the Timberwolves and then they won the Timberwolves in their next two games. They were blown out by OKC, but then in the next game, which was in OKC, they still lost, but they covered the spread. So that's why I like them to cover the spread tonight as the underdogs in this game. But now let's move on to my two final picks. One main pick, again, another spread pick that I liked, and it's the Warriors to cover the spread against the Spurs. Now, this spread is only at minus 3.5 or 4.5, somewhere around there, and this is for half a unit. Spurs have won their last two games without Wemby. They've been playing pretty good. But again, one of those games was a really impressive one against the Thunder. The other one was against the Jazz, who are not that good. Um, I just think that they're due for a loss. This Spurs team, yes, they're much better than they were last year, but the Warriors team is just very, very good. Spurs team is still not that good. You can't instantly, go from a really bad struggling team to a pretty good team with an over 500 record, right? In just the span of one season, that's really hard to do. So I think that the Warriors will win, of course, but this spread is just too small for them. I think that they will definitely cover this. I think this might even be sweat free. Hopefully, it will be. And the Spurs also, they still might not have Wemby and Devin Vassell tonight, right? They might have them, they might not. It's a game time decision. We'll see. But even if they do, I still like this spread. The Warriors are healthy. They have Steph. They have all their players. Um, but this is also a good bounce back spot for the Warriors because this is a back to back for them. But they won the Pelicans, but it was not an impressive victory. They barely won them by 4 or 6 points, I think, and they were heavily favored to win. So this is also a bounce back spot for the Warriors to play much better tonight. On the road, other than their recent loss to the Clippers and the blowout loss, of course, at Cleveland, where I had a spread line, I think, and they were not able to cover, so I'm going with them again. They better cover this time. But other than those two games, they won as underdogs against the Thunder, Celtics, and Rockets. And they covered the spread against the Wizards and blew out the Jazz and the Blazers. So, on the road, generally they've been good. They've just been a really good, solid team. And I think the Spurs are really due for not just a close loss, but a heavy loss. And this feels like the spot for that. This, to me, feels like a blowout. Actually, it has blowout potential. Come on, the Warriors. Um, they beat the Celtics. They blew out the Jazz and Blazers. I think they won the Blazers by like 40 points, something crazy. So they can definitely cover this spread against the Warriors. And that brings me to my last pick. This is another very small pick, just putting a little bit money on it, but it's plus 200 or more. Just an eighth of a unit for them to cover an alternative 9.5 spread. So in other words, for them to win by double digits. Just something that I wanted to place because again, I just this seems to me like there's a good chance that it might be a pretty a blowout win for the Warriors. We'll have to see, of course. Maybe the Spurs will actually play good and not even let them to cover the original spread line, but I just like putting a little bit of money on a plus 200 plus pick here. And with that said, those are all the picks for today's slate that I liked. Let's continue this run and continue the profits. And we need to get to like a double digit units profit or somewhere around that so that we have like a safety net, right? So even if we have a few bad days or one or two bad days, we'll still remain in the positives, right? That is the goal and we will do it. No doubt about it. Let's crush the bookies another night. Let's get it done. Thank you if you watched the video till the end. Again, like, subscribe, share the video, all that. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye. See you.